And so you cannot live your life to the fullest if you're trying to live someone else's life. You can't live your maximum best if you're obsessed with, let me try to do what this person is supposed to be doing, or do it the way that person's supposed to be doing, or I'm comparing myself so much that I don't take action because what I do is
What's going on, everybody? Hey, my name is Andy, and welcome to that one interesting podcast.
Perfect. They do got trust issues.
Why you say that?
I'm not working on nothing. I ain't your daddy.
What is your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing?
She gotta be at least thick. That's an awesome name. High five.
High five for what?
High five.
Welcome to the 35th episode of that one interesting podcast. And today's topic is live your life to the fullest. And we have a very special guest with us, a life coach. I'm going to give him the opportunity right now to introduce himself to you so you can get to know him better.
All right. Hey, it's good to be on today. My name is Kymone Hinds. Right now I live in Tampa, Florida, but I am from Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm from New York. So I got some island in me, but I also got that New York hustle in me. I'm married, have 3 teenagers at the same time. So those of you who pray for me. And also, I love helping people to bring ideas to life. I just believe that there's more potential inside of most of us than we ever begin to explore. And so I believe that one of my roles here on earth is to help encourage people and move them towards taking their brilliance and bringing those ideas to life.
All right. Would you mind give us some information if someone want to check out your work?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So my name is unique. So I'll spell it for you guys. It's Kymone, Kymone, and my last name is Hinds, Hin as in Nancy, D as in David, S as in Sam. So if you want to check out anything I'm doing, you can find me on all of the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, at Kymone Hinds. So my name, first name and last name. And my website is KymoneHinds.com. Real interestingly enough, growing up, my name was so unique. My teachers messed it up. People commonly misspell it. And so I thought that was a drawback. It was a negative. But right now, it's a positive because I can get my name on any social media platform, any website. So yeah, it's Kymone Hinds on any platform. And my website is KymoneHinds.com.
So everything worked out for the best.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
So like what to start up the topic that we're going to talk about, like what interests you in the field that you are in today?
So, my life has been a series of transitions. I'm in my early 40s, but I've already changed career. I'll say about 3 times. All right. So, I started off in business as an actuary. Then I felt a compulsion to go off and study to be a pastor because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people, and also felt, a spiritual call in there. In that, felt God was calling me to lead, and so that's what I did for 15 years. And in the midst of that, I led youth ministries or youth activities for 7 of those years, and then I came back and I became a planter of I starting a new congregation while leading another one. So that's my background. And while doing all of those things that I mentioned, the consistent thread was I helped people to get clarity on things and to take action on something that they have been wanting to do for a while. That was just consistent. And so about 3 years ago, my family and I, we just were doing some introspection, some time of like family visioning. And I said, you know what, instead of me doing that just as a part of what I do, let me lean all the way into that, with my wife and my family support, step away from my full-time job and pursue coaching people to, as I mentioned, bring ideas to life as my full-time vocation. And so that's where my interest came from. It's something that I've always enjoyed, helping people get that clarity and confidence to take action.
All right. So to see, for the first question on living your life to the fullest, like what does it mean to live your life to the fullest.
Right. And man, first of all, man, thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm really glad that you are doing this and putting out positive content,
Yes,
so
sir.
that people can be encouraged. I think especially in these times, people need this. So I want to make sure I say that before I get too far in. Living your life to the fullest. I think sometimes we look at our lives in huge chunks. Like, okay, what am I going to do for the next 10 years? What am I going to do for the next 5 years? I think living your life to the fullest is just really maximizing each day and each opportunity. Each of us, all we really have is the present, which is right in front of us. So living your life to the fullest starts off by saying, okay, with the opportunities I have in front of me today, how can I make the best use of them? I have opportunities, I have relationships, people who have been placed in my circle of influence. How can I impact their lives in the best way today? And then also, I have like skills and gifts and talents. How can I use those the best today? And to me, that's what living your life to the fullest starts with. And as you start doing that, it begins to, as you answer that question each day, it begins to shape not just that day, but it begins to shape, the way your future is. So living your life to the fullest is just really taking advantage of the opportunities, um, doing the best in the relationships we have and maximizing the use of our gifts and our abilities.
All right. A lot of people sometimes, they trying to be comfortable with life. They're trying to live it to the fullest, but there's certain things that people don't really know about. There's certain things that they should avoid in order to achieve that goal. Like, what are some
Mhm.
things that we can avoid to fulfill that goal? To live a life
Man,
to the fullest.
yeah, yeah. I'll say this. One of the big ones that I'm challenged with, and one of the big ones that I know people struggle with is comparison. Man, you would not believe how many things we talk ourselves out of because we are comparing what we have to what someone else has.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're comparing the way we do what we do to how someone else has done it or is doing it. Or we're just comparing, the way we're made up, our temperament, our personality, our upbringing, whatever, to someone else. And the saying is comparison is the thief of joy. And so you cannot live your life to the fullest if you're trying to live someone else's life. You can't live your maximum best if you're obsessed with, let me try to do what this person is supposed to be doing, or do it the way that person's supposed to be doing, or I'm comparing myself so much that I don't take action because what I do is I look at my stuff, I devalue it, and I just quit. And so comparison is definitely one of the things. If I could just get a loudspeaker and just say this really loud to all of the listeners,
Mm-hmm.
that it holds a lot of us back. Think about it.
Yep.
You have something that, listener, that you think, okay, I'm good at this, but I'm not as good as so and so. Like, think about how many times you said that to yourself. I'm good at this, but I'm not as good as so and so. I'm doing my podcast, but it doesn't have as many as this person. And
Yep.
over and over, because of comparison, we end up playing small rather than stepping out and doing something big. So that would be one of the first things I'd say that holds us back from living life to the fullest.
You
Go ahead.
yeah, you talk about comparison, like, in a way, how do you expect, like, how can someone avoid that type of mindset, not to dwell enough on comparing themselves to others? Like, how can someone stay focused and avoid those type of distraction when it comes to, to continue to achieve their goal?
Yeah. It's a discipline. It's a discipline that we need to cultivate. Um, Simple example. My kids are into sports and they ran track. And I remember watching my daughter go out to run track and she's out there stretching. And, her race is in about 30 minutes and they're doing all these stretches. And, in your mind, you're like, why are you doing all of this stretching? You don't get credit for that at race time. Like no one gives you a medal for who stretched the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see athletes out there before whatever games getting warm ups and whatever. And here's the point for all of us. There are activities or exercises we should be doing to stretch ourselves before we do any sort of creative work or before we consider um, doing work that involves our brain. And one of those exercises, one of the stretches that I think we need to do that's so important and no one sees is something as simple as affirmations. Affirmations are simply one of the ways that we help our brain to fight against that soundtrack that tells us what we have isn't good enough, who we are isn't good enough, and no one cares about it because of the comparison. And so each and every day, what I want to challenge people to do is to write out some things that you need to say to yourself about yourself, some things that you need to say to have a conversation with you. So I'm talented. What I'm doing matters. People need what I have. I am creative. Those are some of the things that we need to begin saying to ourselves as a part of daily affirmations. That's one thing I want to just encourage your listeners that the stretching for the work of putting yourself out there to live life to the fullest starts, you know, before you begin writing the book or before you begin working on the business or before you begin starting the podcast. It's the conversations you have with yourself. And because most of us are wired either through our experiences to have negative views of ourselves, we have to intentionally have a habit of having positive things that we say to ourselves about ourselves. Affirmations is one, and I want to also say this: another discipline that we need to cultivate that helps us to guard against falling into that trap of comparison is another habit of celebrating. Every day, you should spend some time affirming yourself, having affirmations in the morning, but also in the evening saying, what am I going to celebrate that has gone well? What am I celebrating that I've done well today? What am I celebrating that I started off as a goal and I accomplished or just went well for me? Because think about this. You live, every day and each week and each month, and things are happening. You are doing things, but you're not giving yourself credit for this. But here is what also happens when you begin celebrating. You give yourself reasons to want to do things so that you can celebrate. So if I am saying, hey, today I may not have written a book, but I wrote a sentence. Today, I may not have made $1 million, but I made my first sale. What that does in your brain is it begins to say, tomorrow I'm going to try something else so that I can celebrate again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe, like, back to comparing? Do you believe there's positive comparing and negative comparison? Because at the same time, someone can look up to someone as a way looking up to them to do better.
Mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm.
they in that spot, I want to be there, so I'm following them. I'm comparing myself to them in a way to learn how they got there, so I myself could be in the same position that they are in right now. So, do you believe in negative comparison and positive comparison?
Yeah, you said it so well. What's the purpose of what I'm doing in terms of looking at someone else? If my purpose is okay, let me learn from this person because I'm going to try, then that's positive, right? I want
Mhm.
to learn because I am going to attempt this. I want to start my nonprofit. And so I need to learn from someone who has successfully started a nonprofit. I want to mentor kids, and so I want to learn from someone who's started a mentorship program. So I am that's using them as a benchmark. I'm using them as a teaching tool. That's good. But if I'm sitting around and I have an idea and I'm looking to find other people who are doing it better so that I can talk myself out of it, then that becomes a negative, that becomes an anchor, that becomes one of the things that holds us back from living our life to the fullest.
Exactly. But to finish up that question on how to avoid certain things to achieve living your life to the fullest, how can someone how can someone avoid those stuff? What are the steps can someone take to be better?
Right. Some of the steps we can take to be better. Um, you know, one of the things you're doing now is you're interviewing me. You are in the position of a learner. And I think for each of us, as we are trying to get better, it's always good to make sure that I am working to better myself. I am working to better myself. Now, that may be something as big as I'm going back to school. I am taking a degree program, right? I am studying for this particular field of study. Or it can be I'm taking a class, I'm taking a course, I'm reading a book, I'm listening to a podcast. I am working on this. And it is so important, I think, for each of us to make sure, one, that we're trying new things and we're learning new things.
Hmm.
Growth comes through experience, trying things, but growth also comes through observation and education. And I think we miss a side of learning if all we're doing is taking in information and not applying it. But I think we also are stunting ourselves if we're doing, but we're not putting ourselves where we can take in from others. And so just to kind of answer your question, I think it's important to do both things, to be putting ourselves where we can be mentored by people, learn from other people's experience, read books, listen to podcasts, have a growth mindset, but then also try new things. Don't just be taking stuff in, but how can I apply this and put it into action where I am and what I want to do?
Yep, yep. Yeah, I saw this post. I think it went viral on social media. Like how what would you tell someone about this? Like the post say, I'm pretty sure you saw it on Instagram. The post say social media got 33 years old thinking they already failed in life. Relax,
Mm.
your life's just getting started. Like what would you tell someone that saw this and was thinking that way? Like what would you tell them?
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Like we and social media, it has its positives, right? So I know if we knock social media,
Hmm.
um, it has its positives. I mean, if there was no social media, you and I wouldn't connect. And a
Exactly.
lot of people who are listening to this podcast wouldn't know about it. So it has allowed people to connect, to learn, and all of those things. But also the challenge is you, in year one, might be comparing yourself to someone who's in year 33, and you're thinking, I'm a failure. And so one of the things for anyone as you're learning from others is don't just look at them where they are in their story. Go back, learn from them how, in other parts. There are people who look at your social media influences, your Gary Vaynerchuk, your Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher, and we see those people and we are just admiring them. But it would be helpful to go back and look at their beginnings, look at the things they tried. Gary V was selling wine.
Exactly.
He the hip hop preacher. This guy was preaching for years before and giving speeches before one of them blew up. And so understand, be patient with yourself. It's one of the keys to success is being determined. This is my goal, but also not like every day, like counting to say, okay, am I at a million today? No, like keep putting the inputs in. Be patient with yourself. And for those who you admire, go back behind the scenes of their story. Don't just gauge your success on what they're doing now. Look at all of the years it took. Someone said an overnight success is made over a lot of years, right? So someone might find someone, they're like, wow, this is an overnight success. No, this person has been putting up shots in the gym when no one was looking, lifting weights when no one was looking at them, writing when no one was reading what they were writing, putting out content when not a lot of people were subscribing. So keep doing it. And eventually your consistency will attract your tribe. It will attract the people who really are looking for what you have.
All right. So, like, do you believe everyone here has a purpose? And if yes, how can someone go about finding his or her purpose in life?
That is such a good question, right? Like purpose is one of those things where um, I think everyone has a purpose, and it's
Hmm.
because we are in a world that is based on relationship and community. So my purpose is not just about what happens to me, but how I can make an impact on the lives of others. As I think about my own life, just as a example, my purpose has common thread that's kind of gone through my entire life. But the way I live out that purpose changes through different seasons of life. Now I'm a parent of teenagers, and my part of my purpose is to prepare them for life after they leave my home and go out on their own. But there is a common thread of what's been going on, and you can kind of look at some of the things that have happened. So some of the positives that you've been exposed to, and even some of your pain has also created a space for you to discover your purpose.
Hmm.
One of my friends says this: "Be who you needed." And one of the ways we discover purpose is to look at what was a pain that I went through that I now want to help someone to navigate that. That's a place that we can sometimes find our purpose there,
Yes.
saying, I'm meant to help people who've gone through abandonment, who've gone through rejection, who've gone through not having a community. So I create community for them. And so we find that. But also, I want people to understand, it's in activity that I would almost say our purpose finds us, that we get that clarity. So sitting, doing nothing, just waiting for purpose to wake you up in the middle of the night and say, here it is not usually what happens, but it's as you take small steps. Okay, I sense this is who I'm supposed to help. This is what I'm supposed to do. Be okay with trying stuff to discover your purpose. At least that is the way that I have discovered it. As I feel led. I see a need. My heart pulls me toward that need. I do something there. Confirmation happens, and I know, okay, this moves me closer to a fuller discovery of my purpose. And so, for anyone listening to this, do not feel any sort of way, no matter if you're 20, if you're 80, if you don't have a fully developed purpose statement. But if you are helping, serving, making a difference in other people's lives, you are realizing purpose. And as you keep on doing that, your purpose becomes clearer.
So now that someone has find their purpose in life, how big of a role does that play in living their life to the fullest once you find your purpose?
As you said it, that I almost feel like this is a statement.
Hmm.
The more you discover your purpose, the more fully you can live life. You know, as you continue to help, continue to serve, continue to make a difference, you discover your purpose more. Life becomes more meaningful. You continue to serve, you continue to help, you continue to help others. You begin to get a fuller clarity on this is who I'm supposed to help. This is what I'm supposed to do for them. You're beginning to realize purpose even more, and life becomes richer. I think um, we understand, and I think we don't even need a lot of examples from popular culture or television to know that the happiest people, the most fulfilled people, aren't necessarily those with the most money. It's
Hmm.
the people who are making a difference. And so discovering purpose, understanding who I'm supposed to help, what I'm supposed to do in for them, how I'm supposed to make a difference, helps us to be more fulfilled. Like life, you realize your greatest joy each and every day when you realize I made a difference in someone's life. That's living our purpose, and that makes life more complete and fuller.
Exactly, exactly. So I saw this tweet on Twitter, and it
Mhm.
says living your life to the fullest doesn't mean you have to be misbehaving all the time. Like with that stereotype, like what would you tell somebody about that? Like, a lot of time when people are doing certain things that they're not supposed to be doing, and you ask them, why
Mhm.
are you doing that? and he or she might be saying, I'm living my life, you know. So we with that statement, like with that stereotype, like how can you change, like what would you say about that type of mindset?
Hmm. I think I understand why people might think that way, because sometimes you feel like this life is, YOLO. You only live once.
Yes.
Um, why not just do things that I enjoy, right? I just like, let me find the things that give me the greatest excitement, the greatest happiness right now, and I just live that up. And you, you understand me. I understand that, because for some of us, life is so difficult that it's almost an escape into some things to just give us a space to just to get away from the pain or get away from some of the challenges. And
Yeah.
so we do that. We escape. But what I think we realize in all of our escapes, once the escape is over, the problem still remains. And so I don't think, even for those, and I'm not knocking, and someone may actually disagree with me, but I think for those of us who may use our escapes as a way to say, well, this is me just living out my life to the fullest. I think there's still a hollow feeling, because I have to face that life after this is, I have to face the thing that I'm trying to avoid. And I don't feel as fulfilled, because we are wired for relationships. We are just made as human beings to be a part of interdependent relationships. And so those things do not necessarily lend themselves to that way of living. And so I just want to encourage someone, I understand why you may live that way, or understand why you may lean that way. But if you find that there is this hollow feeling of, hey, I did it all, but I still got to face this life. Maybe you might be, maybe you are aiming at the right thing, but just aiming in the wrong direction. And I just
Right.
want to encourage you to give this life of, like, who am I supposed to help, and what am I supposed to do for them? Give that a try,
Yeah.
because it may be more fulfilling than some of the other ways we've tried.
Exactly. I agree. And as earlier we talk about being consistent, you know, like you say, like especially on the social media thing about people comparing themselves to what they see on social media, you know, the end result. And you know, after we find our purpose, that doesn't mean that we're gonna find the, you know, the success right away. We got to work for it. So
Hmm.
that's where my next question come in. You know, through life journey, how can you manage the ups and the downs?
Ah, the word that you just used is journey.
Yes.
Yeah, it's life is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's us understanding that each day we're given is a gift. Am I going to do the best I can in this day? But also, if things aren't going well, didn't go well today, the next day is another try. The next day is another opportunity. Um, you know, I think as human beings, we want the highs. We want the promotions. We want the new budding relationships. We want, the money, the whatever. We want the successes. But I think we realize our strength. We realize our just internal fortitude, just a strength of our character, when we allow ourselves to realize that it's in the difficult moments that our character emerges, that we begin to just say, this is who I really am. And so um, allow yourself to just kind of learn from the challenges, celebrate the successes, but know that life is a journey. It is something, even the difficult things, you pass through them, you learn from them, but don't allow them to just rob you of your will to move on and to pursue purpose in life.
Exactly. Exactly. Just like you say, that can implement also, and like you say earlier, on celebrating, like at least celebrate, you know, the small achievement in a way to keep you going, and
Mhm.
know the feeling that you get when you celebrate something. So when you get down, maybe having that mindset and that thinking, the feeling, applying the feeling that you felt when you celebrate will motivate you to get back up and keep going.
Absolutely. It's so interesting you said it. Like, on your down days, sometimes the things that you've celebrated or you have from your up days, they
Hmm.
can lift you to let you know, hey, it hasn't all been bad. I know in relationships, let's just say like dating relationship, marriage relationship, even parental relationship with your kid,
Hmm.
there are going to be some difficult days. And one of the temptations of life is to take the dark days and allow them to be an eclipse over all of your relationships. So you go, man, this has just been a horrible relationship, horrible marriage. I'm a terrible parent. But it's in those moments you need to go back and say, no, I've had some good days.
Hmm.
All my days, my kids haven't looked at me crazy. Like, there's some good days in the midst of this. And I think they keep you going.
Exactly, exactly. So what's like? I know you mentioned that early about when it comes to the meaning of living your life to the fullest. Like, what is the selfless way to live life to the fullest? Like, for example, how can someone contribute to other to help? How can contributing to other people help you live your
Hmm.
life to the fullest?
Yeah. So I'll give you this simple example, right? Like a few years ago, we were at home. My wife and I were just we had this odor that was coming out of our house somewhere. Our kids were younger. So I was like, is it one of the kids? We checked, it wasn't them. We checked the trash. It wasn't the trash. We realized our dishwasher was like broken. So it was stink because water was flowing into it and it was stagnant. It wasn't flowing out of it. And so the water that was coming in, that was supposed to flow out of it, was staying in the same place. And because of that, it became just like a terrible odor. And I think that's what, as you talk about just being selfless and serving others, there
Hmm.
are blessings, there are opportunities, there are um, let's just say there are things that we have received as individuals. I've been exposed to experiences, I've been exposed to learning. And if all I do is hold on to what I have received in my hand, it'll become stink to me. It'll become stagnant to me. But if I now find someone else to mentor, someone else to share, someone else to pass it on to, some group that I feel like, okay, this group is who I have been put on this earth to help in this season of life, the thing that comes to me will flow out of me and I won't hold on to it and it become stagnant and stale and stink. And I think that is where a lot of us are challenged because we have not found someone else to pass on what we're learning, someone else to pass on what we've received to.
Exactly, exactly. So how can someone go about, passing on that, what they receive? Like, give us some ways that someone can implement that to go about
Sure.
passing on what they receive.
Well, I know we love big numbers, but
Hmm.
just find one. Find one. Let's say pick one problem. Got this from a coach named Jerisha Hawk. Pick one problem. What's one problem I am moved by the most in this world? Pick one problem. Then pick one person. Okay, who is one person that I see that has this problem that I am moved by? And then connect with that one person to help them solve that problem. If you're passionate about children and education, find one young person to help them in their schoolwork. Pick one um, one man, one fellow brother that this guy may be struggling in just understanding, or maybe he's dealing with some abandonment issues. How can I mentor this one person? Just start there. I know we want to do thousands and hundreds, but if we start with one, it can help us to scale up and help so much more. So every person listening to this should have someone that's mentoring you and someone you're mentoring so that you can pass along what you're receiving.
Yes, exactly. So to summarize, everything we just talked about, can you give us a step by step process someone can take in order to live their life to the fullest, to their full potential?
Good. Step by step process. First, take some time to appreciate and evaluate what you have. Take some time to appreciate and evaluate what you have.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just something you do once, it's a part of a daily practice, a daily, um, just a daily routine. I am constantly saying, what do I have? What am I good at? Secondly, identifying what are you passionate about? What is a problem in this world that moves you? Begin to evaluate that. Third, figure out who needs what I have. And then fourth, begin connecting with them to serve them. Now, some of that service may develop into a business, it may develop into a book, it may develop into a podcast. But find one, start with one person and serve them. And finally, make sure that you are always, as you are serving, as you're developing, make sure you're always receiving through education, through being mentored, through being trained, so that you are as sharp as possible to continue that cycle. What do I have? Who needs it? What's the problem I want to solve? And how can I connect with someone to pass it on to them?
Exactly, exactly. So we currently have a couple people in the live group chat. If they have any questions you would like me to ask, you can go ahead and put it on the chat down below and I'll ask. Okay, we have one question from Webb. He said,
Yeah.
what was your biggest obstacle in living your life to the fullest?
Well, good question, man. My biggest obstacle is me and the conversations I have with myself, the things I've talked myself out of. I'm sure you can. I'm sure someone can relate to me that I have had great ideas. I have had things that I've wanted to do, things that I know I could have helped others, but I talked myself out of it because I did not practice positive affirmations. I allowed the soundtrack in my head, the negative things I thought about myself, to talk me out of it. And then I looked at what someone else was doing and I thought, because they're doing that and they're so good, then I can't do this. And that's one of the things that has stopped me. That comparison and devaluing what I had has stopped me from living life to the fullest.
You know, we're gonna end this episode. So do you have any things that you would like to share with us that you didn't get the chance to talk about throughout this episode? Any information,
Um,
anything that you got coming up that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. I'm looking at helping people. I think more people are sitting on great business ideas, young and old,
Mm-hmm.
than give yourself credit. And so, in the next couple weeks, I'm actually doing an online training to help people to take your ideas and develop income from them. So, if you are not already following me, come on over, check me out on Instagram. I'll be posting the link to where you can register for that event. It's going to be a live event online to help people to take their ideas and develop them so that they can generate income from it. And I just believe, um, I have seen people young and old. It's never too young to start, never too old to get started. But there's something you have, as we talked about, that someone needs, a problem you solve. And while doing it, you're able to generate income from that. And nothing's wrong with that, because as you do that, it helps you to now help others, give, serve, do more. So just want to encourage you, follow me on Instagram and stuff, and I'll be sharing more information about that event coming up.
All right. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time, taking your time to come in and talk with us about, living your life to the fullest. I'd like to thank everybody that has been listening, and we out.